All right, and we're back on the Eddie Prince Blackgaurd Princegaurd guitar thingy madoodle here, trying to get it done. So where did we leave off? Well, I think at this point, what I will probably want to do is get the action kind of set up. Okay, so we're going to try to get this action close to where we want it. We have our saddles sort of roughly set into a basic intonation pattern of a kind of a Z, which will be close to where it's probably going to set up. But we're going to do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here to get to the ideal playability. You don't really have the ability to ever really zero something in here and then zero something in here and not have it affect something here and then have to go back and forth. So I like to kind of do a little bit and kind of meet in the middle to where I want to be. So I've just basically roughed in these saddles to sort of like this position, which is sort of, like angle, right? So that's close. The saddle heights are terrible. All of this is, has to be set up. And I want to get this action for this guitar, since it's an Eddie guitar, right? And it's got a flat radius, 16 inch radius. I really want to get it really stupid low. And I've heard too, like, I can't remember where it came from, but it was either from Eddie's interviews or friends of his from back then that talked about, how his guitars were set up or how they like to set up their guitars. And they were of the opinion that if it wasn't buzzy, it wasn't right. So they wanted these things on the deck, right? Basically buzzing at that point to get the action as low as possible for as little finger pressure needed, so you could really try to, fly as best as you can. Now, I figure too, one of the interesting things about a very low action is that it's going to affect your sound, right? Like say for instance, a bass player who likes to slap and pop. Part of that sound is the string obviously whacking up against the fretboard, right? And it gives you that kind of metallic, kind of like thwacky, kind of boinky, whatever you want to say, kind of sound. But if you have your action really low, maybe even just a littlest bit of pressure is going to give you a little bit of fret contact and a little bit of noise, especially on, let's say, like open chords that you're banging on hard. If the action's very low, you're going to have some contact from the string to the frets beyond the fret that you're actually playing at. So if you're playing like an A chord and you're whacking on it, you're going to get some slapping at a low point somewhere along the line of the frets beyond that as well, and that is going to create an audible noise, and that may be part of this sound, right? That a high action and big strings, a la Stevie Ray Vaughan, or something like that, is antithetical to getting the Eddie thing going. That Eddie may be, well, obviously very light strings, very low action. That may be key to that. All right, so let's start trying to get this action stupid low. Fretwork is obviously, perfect fretwork is obviously a must for that. I haven't done any fret dressing on this. I messed around with it a little bit with a straight edge to find low frets and high frets, and I really didn't see much to work on, honestly. I mean, you could always probably dial it in a little bit more, but I'm just going to go with it as it is right now. And I'm going to try to get this fretboard as flat as possible, as no relief, obviously no back bow, but as little relief as possible to where it's playable. So start that off, that would involve obviously adjusting the truss rod. And to remove relief, as in to make less bow in the neck, where there's less distance in a straight line of a bow in the middle, you would adjust the truss rod. The interesting thing about this Warmoth neck here is as the side adjust, right? So we can kind of work on it here and adjust here and work on it here and adjust here and try to get that fretboard really flat. It's had strings on it now for probably a couple of weeks, so that's good. That's a good idea when you're first setting up a guitar or first building a guitar, is to let the wood acclimate to the stresses that it's under, not only in the shop or in your house, the moisture content in the air and all of that, but as well as the pressure of the gauge of strings that you're using to tune the pitch. So that's been sitting here for quite a while, so I'm comfortable that this neck is fairly stable in its position. So I'm going to go ahead and check the relief on the neck. And as you can see, when I've got this straight edge on the first fret as well as on the last fret, there's still gap underneath here. All right, there's still a little gap. I could slide my credit card underneath there. So we're going to try to take that out to where basically you're not going to hear that anymore. When I'm fretting at the 21st fret and the first fret and press down here, you can hear that there's a gap. I'm going to try to remove this and get this board as flat as possible. So I'm going to take my Allen wrench and insert it here, and I'm going to start cranking on this here truss rod in attempts to get this thing as flat as I can. So we put a good healthy half turn on that. Let's see where that did. Starting to hear a little bit of contact maybe. Maybe we could go maybe another eighth turn, quarter turn, and see if that flattens it out even more. Go a little turn like there. Still have, I think that's probably it. Let's see. Fret here, a little bit there still. See in the middle. Still a little bit. Give it a little crank. Let's test it again. I mean, there's very little relief in here now. Let's give it a little more. Maybe even a little more. This is kind of crazy. I don't think I've ever tried to make a neck behave in this way. I think we're almost bottomed out here. Can still hear a little something there. Still a little bit, maybe a little more. Yikes. All right, let's leave it here and see how it all goes. Now, how low do I want to get this action? Let me get a start. This credit card is what, 30 thousandths? According to my calibers. That may be a little bit too high. Might want just a dollar bill to fit in there, right? Like 1,000th or something like that. But we're going to just start with placing the credit card here at the last fret, like this, and lowering it until it touches. We're pretty close to being that right now. So each successive string we're going to lower until we get to a very low point. So we'll start with this, right? Okay, so we could come down a tiny bit. A little more. So it's going to be interesting to play a guitar that has this little resistance. Okay, we're a little low there. Can't get the card under. So we'll just bring it up a tiny bit. And we should be in a good place. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next. Gonna bring this up a tiny bit. We can't get the card underneath it yet. Okay. I think that's good right there. We'll move on to the G. That can come down. Oh, I found another pickup that I want to try in this guitar. I did that shootout with Eddie pickups, and I found something that I had put in my pickup box and never really tried out that much. I think I tried it in a Les Paul or something like that back 10 years ago or so. very quickly, but never really tried it as an Eddie guitar. That's perfect right there. Here, let me show you. So, it's right here. And it happens to be one of these Stu Mac Golden Age pickups from like 2010. It's the 5405 Alnico 5. So this is an Alnico 5 magnet. The wind on it, I did measure it. It was somewhere like around, I want to say it was like 10K, but let's just, here we go with ADD boy. Let's go ahead and measure this just for fun. It's just something to talk about, right? So we have our typical humbucker configuration here. So let's see what we got. 11.8. Interesting. So we got a overwound PAF style with an Alnico 5 magnet from Golden Age Stu Mac. And I remember it sounded pretty cool. So in this guitar, we're going to try it out. Because there is some theories that some of those original PAFs, obviously they came in 2s, they came in 5s. So what was Eddie's guitar, right? I've heard that most, well, he got his PAF, supposedly, this is the lore, right, from a ES 335 that he had, a 60s. And my understanding is that those PAFs were more likely than not Alnico 5s. Now you all can turn on your flamethrowers and shoot them at me. Because that may be right, that may be wrong, but we're going to try it. All right, let's continue. We're going to get up to next string. That can come down. Come down even more. A little bit more. A little more. I just basically want the credit card to not push the string out of the way, but just slide under it, right? A little more. So when I get this credit card to push the string a little bit, I'll just back it off a tiny bit. There. It's just starting to contact the card. So I'm going to turn it up just a tiny bit. That should be perfect there. All right, moving on. The A's got to come down a bit. I have some other things that I want to try, but I got to get this guitar done so I can move on to them. I got too many projects. And I've been building a lot of Moto Teddy Jose pedals for people recently too. Built a couple just last week, finished them up for people, sent them out. Getting some good feedback on them. People are really digging those things. So that took up a lot of my time last week. And of course it's tax season, right? So I had to do that. There we go. Just barely moving that A out of the way when I try to get under it. So we'll back that off just a tiny bit. And then we should be in perfect position. And then we'll go to the low E. That may even be in the right spot as we speak. Can go down a tiny, tiny bit. It's got to come up a little bit. Overshot it a bit. Come up just a little bit more. This is going to be weird. I think we're good right there. All right. Trying to get a good look at it in this camera view. I don't know if you can see it. That is some stupid low action. If this doesn't fret out somewhere, I'll be more surprised than you. I'll tell you that. Yeah, so let's see. Now, obviously, in the playing position, right, that's another thing that's interesting. When a guitar is laying flat, it's going to tend to have lower action than when it's sitting this way, right? Just because of gravity. It's not a huge amount, but it's there. So, oh my God. Warmth, you guys can press some frets. I mean, this action is low. It is low, and I'm not fretting out on the high E. Good Lord. This is actually... You can hear it buzzing away. It's playing. The notes are all there. It's definitely a weird feeling guitar. You're basically on the fretboard. I mean, just breathing on it, and it's touching the fret. So this is the lowest action I've ever dared to go to. Okay, so I think we got that dialed in. Let's see what we're gonna do tomorrow. So I think tomorrow we'll finish. We got to do a tiny bit of work on the nut and glue that in place. Get a little crazy glue on that. A couple of drops will do, and just get that nut. There's a tiny bit that we can gain. You know what? It's not a whole lot. This may be perfect as it is. So we may just need to glue this nut in, and then we can go ahead and finish up the intonation. Get that dialed in pretty close, although I don't think Eddie's guitars were really intonated very well. And then we can wire it up, and then we can start playing it and see what it sounds like. All right, so I think we're at, what, 17 minutes for today? So I think that's good for today's work. And all right, so we'll get back on this very soon and finish it up. So I'll see you all later.